Lights, camera, action.
In a studio where local filmmakers talk to other filmmakers about the inside world of film.
Cut.
That's not the script. It. We'll fix it in post. Do you wonder how films are produced and what really goes on behind the scenes? Well, stand by. Filmmakers Kevin Munfrey, Victoria V.A. Jones, and Carson Hype Ferguson explain all the details. Right here on It, We Will Fix It in Post podcast.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Whenever you're listening, I thank you for doing so. I am once again Kevin Mumphrey, and this is We Will Fix It in Post. Today, we're talking to an actress and singer out of the Canada area. Today, we're talking to Donna Benedicto. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, pleasure
Thank
is
you.
all mine. Now, as I was kind of looking through your career and everything, I noticed that you started off as a singer. So I want you to kind of start off talking about, like, when do you remember knowing that you could sing?
Oh, okay. So, me being Filipino Canadian, it's kind of a stereotypical thing that we all kind of know how to sing. That is not completely true, but
Really?
a lot
I didn't know that was a stereotype.
yeah, the karaoke. If you watch Joe
Oh,
Coy,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
I feel like it's most Asians with the karaoke. I don't think it's just Filipinos. But we're known for our karaoke, our love for karaoke. So
Okay, I got you.
yeah, you know what I'm talking about now, right?
Clearly now.
Yeah,
It didn't connect with me
forgot.
at first, but now, oh yeah, it's there.
Okay. Yeah, so I actually started singing in church. I started at 4 was my first performance. And I remember even back then being 4 and hearing that I had a different tone than the other kids. So I was like, oh, I can sing a little bit. And I started singing at 4. I sang in church till about like 10 or 11. And then because my parents and everyone pushed me to keep doing it, I didn't want to do it, of course. Stopped for a little bit, quite a bit, and just sang, like I was a little shower singer. I sang in the shower a lot.
Oh yeah.
And then, and then I actually didn't really have much of a focus in high school and after high school. I was just managing a bar and serving and making all this money, and I really needed a hobby. So my boyfriend at the time encouraged me to go take singing lessons for something to do. So I took some lessons and got a little better. Took lessons probably once a week for a year because I wasn't a great singer back then. I needed the help. I needed the lessons for sure.
Okay.
And then what happened was the bar I worked at, I managed for about 6 years or something like that, 5 years. So they gave me a show. They let me sing at a staff party as kind of Donna sings now. She's taking singing lessons. And my boss liked it and knew that if he gave me a show that he would pack the bar. So, and they were nice enough to give me a show,
So
even though I wasn't.
This show, everybody you worked with was kind of watching you sing?
Yeah, at the staff party. And then after the staff party, he put a date on and announced it. And, people were like, Donna sings all of a sudden. And we packed the bar for my first show. And I sang one show, thought I did okay. And then the thing is, he booked me a show every month and you just get better and better because you go from singing like 2 or 3 songs to having to sing 3 whole sets. And yeah, you just get better. And then it just kind of went from there. People just started hiring me and got a cover band going, got in a cover band, and then got into another cover band, and yeah, went from there.
So this staff show, because I'm imagine everybody I worked with watching me do anything would be nerve-wracking. So, like, were you nervous doing that showcase?
Oh yeah. When my first couple shows, I was so nervous. Do you know anything about singing? Do you know what vibrato is? Like the shaking of the voice?
Oh no.
Like, oh, okay.
I've heard of that term, but I don't know what it is.
Yes, when someone sings and they hold a note and it shakes, like it goes,
Oh, okay.
I had unwanted vibrato because I was shaking so much from nerves. Like I was so nervous. I had vibrato when I was talking, like, "Hi, everyone."
Oh my God.
It was so bad. I was so nervous. Oh my gosh! Especially the staff party, I had quite a bit to drink, so it was a little more fun. And And because they were all rooting for me, that it was a little easier. But the first show, oh my gosh, I was so nervous. Everyone was like dead quiet out of respect for me, and it was kind of
Yeah.
awkward because they were
It's
so
almost
quiet.
worse.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is almost worse.
I've talked to comedians and I go, would you rather be booed or nothing at all? Like, yeah, I'd rather you boo me because silence hurts
Yeah,
when you're performing in any way, shape, or
yeah,
form. Now,
yeah. Oh my God, and that's it. You could
how
tell they
did
were
you?
all nervous for me too.
It's like they're rooting for you, but it also makes it almost worse in a sense. I don't know how to, because I think I would rather perform for people that don't know me than people that know me
Yeah,
my entire life.
yeah. No, I feel you.
So now, so you've sung, you've been in cover band. Now, at what point did you go from singing to going having an interest in acting?
It was when I first got into a cover band. I auditioned for this cover band, and then I had no creative control over what we sang because I could suggest songs that I would like to sing, but the band had set amount of songs that they knew how to play. And so obviously, so we don't waste those songs, I have to learn those songs. And some of them I really didn't want to sing. Like there's some songs that were not my vibe whatsoever. Like I respect anyone who makes music, but there's nothing that I would enjoy
Yeah.
singing. And I had to learn them. And I remember complaining to a friend saying like, oh, I just want to make sure this performance comes off good and people can't tell that I don't like this song and whatever. And he suggested that I take some acting classes. He's like, oh, that might help. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Sure. And then I took my first acting class and was hooked. And then it went from there. The acting coach said, I think you could probably do this. I think you would get some work if you want to get started. And I signed with her agent at the time and just snowballed from there. Started booking commercials and etc. It was fun.
So this first acting class,
Yeah.
did you have a kind of perceived notion of what an acting class would be like?
No. So acting classes are completely different everywhere. So this was a audition class. So some acting classes that you go to, you act in front of your classmates in person, like with another person as a scene. And audition classes is where you tape yourself on camera, which is, that's what we have to do, especially after the pandemic. We're
Yes.
always auditioning on tape. So this is when 2013. Yeah. So what we did was we would get scenes to memorize the night before, and then you show up and you just tape yourself. And I had no idea what this was about. Like, really, I just kind of showed up and with my scene memorized, and she's like, yeah, okay, so you just go up and do it. And there's a lot to it that we don't need to get into unless you're interested in learning how to act. But I just pretended it was happening to me and just kind of went for it. And I remember it was a really hard scene too. I had to be scared and running into tables because I was talking to this guy.
It's a lot of action.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have to imagine everything when you're auditioning. So it was very strange, but I did it and it was really fun. And then everybody watches it back afterwards.
Now, is that nerve-wracking at all?
Oh yeah. Very nerve-wracking. I don't know I don't know what's worse. I think a televised performance would be really nerve-wracking. Like a televised singing performance would be nerve-wracking. But for me, singing in front of a live audience is a lot less nerve-wracking than acting sometimes. Yeah. Acting is a lot of pressure
be the
too.
other way around.
No, because I feel like when you're singing live in front of a live audience, if you screw up, you could kind of just, they're into the performance of it. They'll just kind of sail over your screw up. But if you're screwing up, like while you're acting, like if you keep screwing up, you're costing them a lot of money. You know what I mean?
You know what? Yeah, that's another kind of pressure.
Well, that's a lot of people think like, oh yeah, I could act. I could probably act. And then you get on set and there's all the lights and the cameras on you. There's like, I don't know, 50 crew watching and they're all waiting for you to get it right. And then there's silence. They say action and people forget how to talk or what to do with their hands or whatever. That's a lot of pressure.
You think about things you don't necessarily think about
Oh,
Like
for
now, I
sure.
I am one of those people who like if I'm doing something, I'll think about and I have to stop myself from doing it. Like what is my hand supposed to be doing here?
Yeah,
What
I know.
how am I walking? Is I walking right? I never care about my walk before in my life until I started acting.
Right? But then
Like
when yeah, but when it's on camera, you're like, oh, am I walking weird? Is my eye twitching? Did
yeah,
I
well,
say that right?
yeah, I
Yeah.
like with me doing a lot of audio stuff, I hear my voice in it, which took a while for me to get used to hearing my own voice.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I would cringe at that. I mean, there are even certain things I still kind of cringe at listening to myself, but it took me like maybe a year and a half for me to get used to listening to my own voice.
Yeah.
So now I haven't gotten to the like I can't watch myself in anything as of yet. I haven't gotten to that point yet, unless it's like really quick. Like if I'm an extra in my own stuff, I can see that. I'm just walking by. Outside of that, I don't want to see myself at all. So that one I'm
It,
still getting used to. Now when they were doing the acting class, I'm kind of picturing in my mind how this would be like. So I'm guessing everyone's watching the scene you do, and it's like a bunch. They'll pause, critique, play,
yeah.
pause. Yeah, that sounds like hell. That sounds like
It's not for everybody, that's for sure.
no.
No, it's not.
Yeah, so we go. Like, do you remember your first audition?
I think I remember my first commercial audition. Commercial auditions are very weird. Oh no,
Please elaborate.
oh gosh. Because so commercials are only 30 seconds long, usually
Yeah.
30 seconds, 40 seconds long, and pretty sure they're 30 seconds long. So sometimes if you watch commercials now, from now on, you'll see this. There'll be like some people will be doing very strange things. I remember this one, I think it was a car commercial. I'm not sure what car. And when you see the commercial, like, okay, that makes sense. But I basically had to stand there and like pretend there's an orb like floating by. And you have to, make a face. And then they're like, okay, you're interested in the orb. Okay, it's floating to your right now. And now it's lighting up and making you happy. And then you have to, emote in your face like, wow, like, very, very strange things like that in commercials. Or it'll literally be you driving, pretending to drive in a chair with a director and producers in there and the casting director in there. And so you're pretending to drive on this chair and they're like, okay, look in the rear view. And you have to pretend to look in the rear view. Now look back and smile at your children. Okay. And then, and then like there's a deer walking by. You're like, wow, a deer without, saying anything. So commercial auditions are interesting like that.
I've had one audition like that. It was very ad-libby.
Oh, okay. It's good
So
when they can let you ad lib.
it can be, but this one wasn't one of those cases because
Oh.
it was for like a local insurance company. And the guy walked up to me and he's like, I'm sorry to say your family has died. And I'm like, wait, what? What am I supposed to do with this? I don't even remember what I did. I was able to kind of stay on the playing field, but my brain that the entire time was like, really? This is where you went with this? You could have said my leg were broke. There were so many other ways you could have. You just made this as horrible
Oh,
as possible.
that's what the guy ad libbed. Oh, yeah. See,
Yes.
that's the problem. If you are going in with someone who's ad libbing that isn't good at it, and they pull something like that, your chances get kind of thrown out the window.
Oh,
That wasn't your fault.
that is exactly what happened. I was like, yeah, I'm not getting this. I'm just
Yeah,
I'm just acting for the next role at this point. Because
I've
this
I've had similar I've had similar commercial audition, um, ad lib mess ups like that
now,
for sure.
now I don't mind ad libbing. It just kind of depends on the circumstances. That wasn't the situation where I would have liked to ad lib. Especially,
No,
usually I like ad lib with people I kind of have a rapport with because we kind of know, like, I know how far I can take this with him, and
right.
he or she would know how to take it. Now, do you like ad libbing at all?
I feel in those commercial situations, yeah, for sure. I do like it. I like it if I know the story, if I'm especially if I'm comfortable. It's kind of my job to be able to ad lib if I need to. So yeah, I enjoy it. I like having a free take. So free takes is when you basically, you do a couple takes by the book and then they'll give you a free take and you just do it your way and say it your way. I love having free takes. So I guess you could say I do like ad-libbing.
Now,
Sure.
how often have a free take you've done actually made it to air?
I think a few times, but it's usually like the tail end of a scene. Like if you add a button or something on, like button
Yes.
up the scene with an extra line or something like that, those have usually made it in. And I actually, I remember I did this one show and I was playing a bartender and it was a pretty long scene. And the director gave me a couple of directions and I did the way he directed. And he was so sweet and so impressed with me doing it the way he wanted that he's like, okay, I'm going to give you a free take. And this is why I've always made sure that I had a free take in mind because at the time, I think it was like my second year of acting or first year of acting. He said, okay, free take. And I did the exact same thing. So I
Oh.
was like, shoot, I should have done something different. And I didn't. So yeah, you should always have a free take in your pocket, you know?
So that's actually good to know because,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I didn't know the term was called free take, but I was aware of it because I've been able to do that at least once or twice. Now, as far as like when you doing an audition, like how does you kind of like prepare yourself for an audition?
Oh, okay. So I will if there's a script available, I'll read the script. That's a great thing to do. So you know the context of what's going on.
Oh yes, of
Because
course.
a lot of the time the character description is really vague. And when it's vague, I just kind of put my own spin on it. And I'll just read the sides over and over and over again till I kind of feel it in my body. And then I start memorizing. Like I'll be pretty memorized by then. And then kind of block it out in my mind. This is all the night before. And the day of shooting the audition, I'll just go over it over and over again. Have you used Line Learner? That's like the
Oh,
best app.
I heard about that app,
It's a really
but
good app.
okay,
Throw it
no,
on
because
Line
it's
Learner.
because
Yeah, if it's
I
a
was doing the old fashioned way. It
oh right.
it it works for commercial stuff, but with stuff with like long monologues, which scare me to death. That that usually has to take a while.
Well, yeah, if there's big dialogue, I'll throw it on Line Learner because you could record your lines and the other person's lines in there and time it out and stuff. And I'll just kind of play it while I'm doing the dishes or doing whatever or getting ready and just play it over and over and over again, just so you don't screw up. I mean, because back in the day before the pandemic, you had to know your stuff in person in the room. So that's what I would do.
Now,
I do it
how
for tapes too.
often now do you now is most of your auditions self tape or do you are you
Hmm.
still in the room with the director or whoever?
No, unfortunately, I had a callback, an in-person callback last year, one. But besides that, no, I really miss the room. I really love being in the room with the director and casting directors. And I know the directors and the casting directors I know now do miss the room as well. Because that's how you can get a sense of who you're going to work with, right? Like you get a sense of
Yeah.
someone's personality when they walk in the room and their energy and whatnot. So now that we tape everything, you just have to really try and show yourself in the character and in the slate a little bit, I think.
Do you feel it's a little more convenient to self tape or could it be a bit of a hindrance?
To be honest, I feel like I like a mix of both, but I feel like especially when I first started acting, it's really good for new actors to be in the room. I think I won a lot of people over by just being myself in the room and being kind and having fun in there. So people are like, hey, you know what? If they can pick between two actors that are the same level of acting that do about the same level of a rate of audition, if they both did a 10 of performance, if one of them's fun and
Oh, yeah.
funny and one of them's kind of like intense and like into their character, they could be like, you know what, let's have the fun person on set. Or it could go the other way. It's like maybe that person doesn't seem serious enough, like we want the intense person. I feel like you get more of a chance in the room, personally.
Actually agree with you, because when I first started doing self-tape, I'm an introvert, so I somewhat get nervous in rooms with crowds of people. So I was like, oh, this is
Yeah.
great. Now
Yeah.
it became a thing where it's like I auditioned more. I had more auditions. It's a little more exciting to audition when you're having to be in front of a director, in front of, like, I had one, actually my very first audition. It was basically everybody who was auditioning in a circle, and
Oh.
me and this one actress I knew that we all knew she was getting picked, and we would just kind of go off of her, which it felt like a wrestling match of sorts, because we're having an argument.
Oh my gosh, you know what? I remember that. I had something, not an argument, but I remember being in the room with like I think 5 girls, and you just had to tell them about your personality. And I was really shy back then. And this was before I had an agent too. I
Oh,
think
yeah,
I
this sounds
was,
like a nightmare for me.
yeah, it was very weird. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, we just start talking about stuff. Okay. Yeah, that can happen too when you're
So
new.
you had to sit there and talk about yourself.
Yeah, you have to be like, hey, hi, well, this is what I like to do for hobbies. Because they're trying to buy your energy,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know?
that is.
That's what they're selling is you're
I can
selling your
talk about
energy.
other people, but talking about myself is rather. It just feels odd.
Really?
Yeah. Like, as soon as people ask me, I mean, especially when I was doing the school, that's terrified me. It's just talk about yourself for 5 minutes. 5 minutes felt like an hour.
Yeah, some
Couldn't,
people really like talking about themselves, so
which I am not one of those people. I don't like writing about me, talking about me, anything. Like, even doing a resume is a nightmare for me. It's like I don't want to I'll just be too much in my head. Like, don't overdo it, don't underdo it.
That's
And
not a fun place to be.
no, it's not.
No.
It's not. But that's mostly what I would do at a self tape, because I can look at it, then I'll like, oh, I can do it over. So it'll be almost, I probably won't send the tape until like right at that last minute, because I've just been redoing it, doing it, redoing it, doing it. Whereas if I'm doing it live, I'm usually more focused because I'm terrified around all these people.
Yeah.
And it's a little more energy. So if it's a scene that causes a lot of energy, it's a lot easier for me to project any anger or anything that's high intense, because I'm just taking
Mhm.
my nervous energy and I'm just shooting it into whatever this is.
And I think that's so useful though, because that's what it's kind of going to be like on set. You're going to be in front of a lot of people. You're going to have a camera right down your face. And sometimes on set, if like, depending on who you're working with, if they don't want to act with you for your coverage, maybe they leave and you're acting with a stand-in or something, like
Yes.
you really never know. I think it's unfortunate for new actors that don't get that experience because you have to learn how to work with those nerves. Because yeah, you could kill it on a self tape, but because you get to do it over and over and over again, but then you get to set and you have like 3 takes before
Yeah.
it starts costing a lot of money.
Yeah.
And people start getting, irritated with you or whatnot. So yeah, I do think it's very valuable that people get some experience in the room just to work with those nerves, just to know what it's like. Because
Now,
everyone thinks they could do it until you get
yeah,
on set and there's all that pressure, right? So,
there's the difference between the little camera and the big camera. They
oh
told
yeah.
me. And
And then
so,
sometimes there's 3 of them, sometimes there's 2 of them. Like,
and then like
yeah.
I made the mistake of asking one of the cameramen how much would this camera run you? And it was like, yeah, it's probably like $50,000. I was like, I shouldn't have asked.
Yeah.
So now every time I see a heavy camera, I'm just like, that's 2 of my cars.
Oh yeah.
It's probably a bus
They're
recording right
very
now.
they're very expensive.
So you remember like the first set that you were on, your first on set experience?
My first on set that wasn't a commercial. My
Yes.
first that wasn't a
Actually, no.
commercial.
Start with the commercial. Like, what was that
Oh,
process like?
it was great. I didn't have a talking role, which was I was so thankful because everything I just talked to you
Yeah.
about how like yeah, you could act in the room. Like I auditioned quite a bit back then, like my first year, I was auditioning for commercials a lot. This was maybe my 10th or 11th commercial, and I booked it. I remember I booked it pretty early in my career. And I was thinking like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be so much fun. And so talk about anxiety. You get on set and it was a party scene. So there's all these extras, plus the
Uh,
crew, plus the camera. And all I had to do literally was kind of be talking with this girl, like pretend talking, and then looking at this guy and looking him up and down, like, ugh, what are you doing in my brain? Like I didn't have to say anything. And because the commercial is 30 seconds, they are so picky. They make you do take after take after take because they need a lot to choose from. But talk about pressure. I was so nervous just to do that, and I wasn't even saying anything, which thank God I'm so happy that that was my first experience on set, not saying anything, because I knew
yeah.
I'm like, holy, if I had to say a whole monologue or something like that on my first booking, I would lose my mind. And I tell a lot of new actors too that say like, oh my gosh, I want these big roles. Why aren't I getting these big roles? Why aren't I auditioning for these big roles? I'm like, because you have to prove yourself first. You
Yeah.
never know. You could get those big roles and just fluke. Like that actually, was it my second year of acting? My second year of acting. I got a big audition for a lead in this series, and it was a really good series. And then I got pinned for it, and pin means like you're in the running, like
Okay.
you're in like maybe the top five. And there was a really big emotional scene, and I remember the tape was I did a pretty good tape. Oh, obviously because it got me pinned, and I didn't understand back then that like you can't really recreate what you've done when you do it again in a callback.
Yeah.
You can't recreate it. You got to do something different. It'll be different, and you have to let it go. And I pretty much bombed that audition. Like, I mean, bombed the callback. So I get a callback, meet the producers. I do the first scene, which they said was great. And the second scene was so emotional, and I could not get there. So they just cut me off, and they're just like, oh no, like, thanks. They didn't even let me finish. So
Oh.
yeah, because I bombed it. I was too new. And, I remember at the time thinking like I was so upset that I bombed it, and like I was so close to getting it. But when I think about it now, if I got that role back then, how I was talking about costing people money, they would have
Yeah.
been so
Oh, yeah.
frustrated with
Yeah.
me.
That's what I was thinking about.
I was not ready and it makes sense if you think about it from a casting perspective. Even if that director loved me and whatnot, like I just proved in the audition that I couldn't really do it, you know? So, I mean, they could have let me do it over and over again. They could have kept pushing for me, kept trying for me, but I wasn't experienced enough to be able to carry that kind of emotion, just even in a callback, you know?
Yeah.
So if I can't do it in a callback, like if you are casting your life story and there's a big emotional scene between like two friends that you remember, and like the actors like just can't get it there, you probably wouldn't cast them, you know what I mean? So I totally get it, and I understand that I wasn't ready. And so I tell new actors all the time, like, you're not getting the big stuff yet, and you should probably be happy you're not getting the good stuff yet, because you got to work your way up to it.
And yeah, that's actually a good point because I mean, you get in, you're looking to be on the big screen as soon as possible. You want the big dialogue, the big back and forth between two great actors, and you may not be at the point where you can do it in two takes. You may need like 6 or 7, and 6 or 7 sounds very expensive to a director or a casting agent.
Yeah. Exactly. Some people don't, some films don't have that kind of budget. Some do, but some don't. And maybe some people are naturals at it, and you never know how the life story is going to go. But I do tell new actors, like, be patient. You gotta get on set and get your confidence up, knowing you could do 3 or 4 lines with ease and whatnot, because you get under that pressure and you can't follow through, and it could be a horrible experience if people are being mad at you and whatever.
And it
It
can
would
be quite
suck.
overwhelming.
Oh, completely. Like, I just imagine if I got that big role, if I didn't screw up that callback, I could just imagine how it would be like on set. I would be peeing my pants before every scene with that kind of dialogue. And it was like sci-fi dialogue too. Like, I was
Oh,
not ready. Yeah.
talking
A
Star
blessing in
Trek.
disguise, I guess,
So
for the
yeah,
show
because
and
I
me.
was thinking like if you had gotten that role and gotten on set and bummed, do you think you'd even be acting now?
That's the thing. You never know. And you never know with shows too. If you're not doing a good enough job, they could just fire and replace you. Sometimes they have to. They've done it before.
Oh
So,
yeah, I like soap operas. See people just
yeah.
magically disappear, and this
They
this
get like
role
they
is
book
now being
something
played by.
bigger. Yeah, exactly. So you never know. I have no idea. I would like to think that if I got it, I would just have gotten an acting coach and really worked really hard to do it. It would probably just taken more time than it would
Okay.
if I got it now, you know?
Yeah. So you're doing commercials. So what was that first project that wasn't a commercial?
Uh it was called Almost Human. And again, it was like a one line and it was great. I was a secretary and I run in after these guys who barge into this my boss's office. And it was great. I had one line and I had to act irritated. And again, I was so grateful because that set was a big studio set. So that was like in a studio set, they build in a studio, they build all these different types of sets. And I was like so intimidated because they were so cool looking and it was all futuristic and there was a lab and I was in a really nice trailer. It was my first trailer experience. Like, oh my gosh, it
You
was
had your own
amazing.
trailer.
Yeah. Well, they kind of divvy up the trailers. It was part of a trailer. That makes sense?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I can't
For the
remember all
sake
the
of this,
terms.
we're gonna say your own trailer.
Yeah, sure.
Because from
And
getting from doing commercial and doing okay, you can dress here. You have your own spot.
yeah, you have your own spot. And it had like a recliner and a little
Oh,
fireplace it was for a small role. I was
I'm
really
imagining
shocked.
you took like a lot of pictures of this.
Oh, I did. Back then, 2013, I put it on the Instagram. Me and the recliners, like, I could get used to this. Or whatever.
So like it wasn't something I would normally do. That the one time I was really taking photos, I wasn't on a trailer, but it was like the on-set food.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
So everyone who has followed me on Instagram, I've been known for posting my on-set food. Because I
oh,
was
so you do
so
this?
overwhelmed. Oh my God, I love food so much. And when I first got onto set and seeing like crafty and catering, so
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
crafty that has the food available for you at all times, and like before the pandemic, they just laid it out. There's protein bars and chips and donuts and crackers and sandwiches and veggies and like Costco snacks. They all had it laid out, and the bigger shows had like a lot of food. And then there's the catering who serves the hot food, and
Oh
you get
yeah.
breakfast, and then
I didn't get the
some of
breakfast, but I
oh man, the breakfast, and then the lunch, like the dinner lunches. The higher budget shows would have. Oh my gosh, what show was that? I can't remember now. Was it Supernatural? Supernatural's catering was insane. They had a table of desserts. They had a table of salads. They had a table for like shakes. Same with all the bigger budget
yep.
shows had insane catering. And I would eat so much. I would eat and eat and eat and eat. I still do.
So I was next to like on the show Nashville, and again, yeah, I remember they had all the snacks and everything. I was like, okay, I thought that was it. So I'm like, cool, I can just eat these little Tootsie Rolls and drinks over there. And they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna have lunch, and I saw they had this like chicken breast, and they put asparagus in it, and I was like, you don't eat this, you take pictures of it. Like this is art. Like and you couldn't
Oh,
even
this.
taste the asparagus.
Oh man,
Like I
this
hugged the
one.
chef.
Oh right, did you?
I
There
did because
was.
I've never ate like that before.
Oh my goodness, there is. So there, if I'm on set for more than a few days, well, I know quite a few handful of caterers in Vancouver now. But they because they know I like food, they'll like set
They
aside
really
some
show
things for
up.
me. Yeah, they show out. They really show out. And this if you get on set for some of the show's last days, like if I had a couple days on this one show, but my days were at the end of their days. They had steak and lobster for their lunch.
Lord have mercy.
Like so good. And I knew the caterers and the caterers knew me. And I got cut before lunch happened. And luckily it was shooting kind of by in Vancouver where I was. And I was like, I got cut for lunch. She's like, Donna, come back. Bring a container and come back. I'm like, okay. And I came back and I got my lobster and steak. I was so happy.
Oh,
Yeah,
my-
the food is the best part. Well, no, I mean performing is the best
Oh no,
part
no,
and
I
everything, but
understand.
it's
I
just
understand. I
it's like
completely
a
understand.
nice addition.
It's like until you've experienced it, people don't really understand. Like this is fancy eating. Like you only eat like that if you're on a date, and even
Yeah.
then, you're probably not getting food like that.
Well, it depends on the budget, but yes, mostly. If you follow me on Instagram, you will. If I'm on set, you'll be seeing what I'm eating all the time. Oh, and hot snack. Have you ever stayed on set long enough for hot snack?
Hot snack?
So that's when. So they have crafty all day long, but they'll have breakfast by the caterers, lunch by the caterers, and if you're going late, well, but they always do this. There's hot snack. So that's like it's a hot snack between lunch and like wrap time, just
Okay.
so you have something hot. And oh my gosh, some of the hot snacks I've had, I was on this really big budget show and they barely used me for anything, so I was sitting around a lot just eating. And their hot snack, I had how many days? I had 3 days on that. One hot snack day was a poutine bar. They rolled around with a cart. This is before the pandemic, obviously. They
Uh-huh.
rolled around with this cart where they made this you poutine, and there was poutine toppings. They had the cheese curds, the pork, there was bacon, and they would make it for you and like pour the hot gravy on it and give it to
Oh
you.
my God.
This other hot snack on the same show, they had, you know, those Chinese buns, those shopao buns.
Yeah, I
What are
need
they
something.
called? The steam buns. They had a steam bun cart with like chicken, pork, minced
Lord
beef, or
have mercy.
whatever. It was crazy. And then sometimes they'll have like tacos. The set I just wrapped on, we had taquitos for hot snack. Just eat all day. And then also what they did have too near the before hot snack was as the night goes by, if people need like a little sugar rush because they're like, you know, late days,
Yeah.
there used to be a candy tray. So it was a tray and they would just pile it full of different candies, like sour keys, Hershey Kisses, some chocolates, some like gummy bears or whatnot. And they go around and like just give them to the crew. Crafty would come around and be like, candy tray. And then they would just give it to the crew. So then they would get a little sugar to last for the rest of the day. It's pretty awesome.
What set had the
Terrible for
candy
your
tray?
health.
Terrible, yes, but amazing. I mean,
All
what a
of
way to
them.
go.
All of them had the candy tray. They don't do it
Oh,
now because of COVID. Now they just
yeah.
have like candy, little bags of candy. But yeah, every set I've had the candy tray. And it would come around and I would film them, be like, here it is on my Instagram story.
I'm a little jealous. Never had the candy tray.
You never had the candy tray. You
No.
haven't stayed long enough.
No, apparently I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
No, they just had the candy on the table, the chips.
No.
Oh my God.
They would come with the sugar candy tray on purpose.
Lord
And
have mercy.
everybody would just have it and have their sugar rush and crash.
Oh,
It was great though.
nah, I don't think what made that worse. Like I'm in Tennessee, so we're big on barbecue. They had like a
Mm.
barbecue tray. Oh, we'd be done for.
Oh man.
we would
Done for.
We would be all done for. I'd have to run straight to the gym afterwards.
Well, so this is the thing. There was this one show that I had a recurring role on, and I was gonna see. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna work out really hard and see if like I could eat whatever I want. You can't out train a bad diet. I worked out so hard after set every day, and I still gained weight and got puffy and whatever from eating all that candy and sodium and just all the free food. It was so good though.
I could in my 20s. Oh, it would just disappear.
Yeah.
I turned 30 and it was like, no, we're here now, buddy.
Yeah, you can't do it anymore.
So
Metabolism won't let you.
oh no. My metabolism is barely hanging on now.
I feel you.
So you were talking about he had a recurring role. What series was that?
That was Supergirl.
Supergirl.
Yeah.
So how does necessarily that work? Because do they just call you and see what days you're free?
Yeah, basically they'll call your agent and be like, "Hey, we wrote Donna in for this next episode. These are the dates." And you're like, "Okay, here I am."
They
That's
just
how it works.
so because in my mind I thought like, okay, they have the season out, it was already written out, and they would be like you would know like months at a time. But I guess that's
Oh no. No, no,
no,
no.
that's not happening.
Everything acting is last minute. Your schedule, your call times, like
All of it, yeah.
everything's last minute. I remember I got this one lead role, I think because the lead they originally had dropped out because they schedule issues. I'm not sure. But I got it. I learned that I got it. We had a table and 2 days before shooting, a full lead role, like a full TV movie. And then we had one table read and then we started shooting. I had 2 days notice. So sometimes you don't even know. You just have to be able to do it.
So it's like you always have to be ready.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of always being ready, so I know you've done a bunch of Hallmark movies too. And I had one experience as a Hallmark movie. And experience I was an extra, obviously, but so in my experience, we was waiting for maybe 4 hours. And then they're like, everybody's ready. And I'm like, okay. So they said, look, when you get up here, you're just gonna walk to the hall and then walk back. So I'm thinking, okay, they're gonna set up, get ready. We're gonna do a run maybe 1 or 2 times, then shoot. I get up there, action. Okay. I gotta go now. So they didn't use the first take, so they did like 2 more takes, and then it went to the next scene. But I didn't realize how. So I don't know. That was just the film I worked on. But are they really quick at shooting these type of films?
It really depends what's happening. For Hallmark and TV movies, they usually have 13 to 15 to 17 days to shoot, so they move pretty quick. They do move they do move pretty quick. And it also really depends on what's being needed. Sometimes I'll be like thinking that I have 2 hours to wait before I'm called up, but something's been moved around that we need you immediately. I'm like, oh, okay. Didn't have time to run my lines. Like, time to go. It really all depends because sometimes they'll be setting up something for one shot and then they're like, okay, no, we're losing that light. We'll use that for another day. We'll move that to another day. Or we'll have to relight that later. Let's shoot this other scene right now. And then there's a scramble to get everyone on set and everyone ready. So yeah, you just always have to be ready.
So
You really never know.
So it wasn't just me who went through that. I just glad it wasn't just me who was just like, what?
Oh no. There's a lot of last minute changes. There's this one movie that I was on that because we're shooting in Canada and it was supposed to be a summer movie, but lo and behold, there was snow in February for whatever reason. And there was a lot of outdoor scenes for this movie. And unfortunately, they couldn't shoot most of the outdoor scenes because it was snowing. And it's supposed to be in the summer. We're all in t-shirts and whatever. And you could clearly see there's snow outside. So it was not in wherever it was supposed to be set to. So I was finishing up this one scene and the director comes over. She wrote it too. And she said, hey, any chance that if I wrote a scene for you, we could shoot it right after the scene because we actually, yeah, she said we're 8 minutes short in this movie because they didn't shoot any outdoor scenes because it was snowing.
Yeah.
And what am I going to say? No. And she asked if I could have most of the dialogue because I was a supporting role and the lead had so much dialogue in the movie already. Like for her to memorize that was going to be really hard. And I was like, okay. So while we were finishing the scene that we were just doing, they're writing another scene for me. And then basically they tore down the set. I had to change. And while they're setting up for the next scene that she just wrote, I had to sit there and memorize for maybe like 15 to 20 minutes. And I got to set and they knew like, I'm like, sorry, I'm going to do my best, guys. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to call for a line. They're like, no, we got you. We understand. We know. And I did it. You just have to do it.
So from that new dialogue that was being written, from the time they got done being written to the time you got on set was like 20 minutes?
No, they were writing it while I was finished shooting the other scene we were doing. So I was I was doing this one scene and you know how they have different setups for one scene?
Yes.
While they were setting up like the next setup, that's when I was asked like, hey, can you if we write you another scene, can you I'm like, yeah, okay. So that we finished doing the setups for that scene while they were writing it, and
Ooh.
then I had to go memorize it. Yeah,
So this kind
it
of
turned out
reminds.
great though.
I would hope so.
Yeah,
Uh,
it turned out
but it
great.
what it reminds me of, and I don't know if they have this in Canada. It's called a 48-hour film festival, where you have to like you
Shoot and then edit. Oh yeah, we have that
shoot,
48 hours here.
yeah, and all got to be done in like 2 days, like
Mm-hmm.
a weekend,
Yep.
which can be fun and horrifying at the same time. But it's kind of how I got my start out acting in these 48-hour film festivals. But when you're done, like you almost need like the Monday and Tuesday afterwards to
To
rest.
recover. Oh yeah.
Yes, that's what that reminds me of. So I guess something like that would be kind of a good jump start into how things you could deal with in this industry can be like.
Oh yeah. Totally. It's kind of don't get into the film industry if you're looking for stability, really. Unless like, I mean, especially as an
I hate how
actor,
right you are.
you can't be expecting it. You may live the life of your dreams, but you're not going to be knowing what your schedule is really ever.
So how do you like time management wise? How do you kind of set aside time for yourself? Or like maybe take a vacation or a staycation or something like that. Or you just kind of have a life for yourself.
Well, the thing with acting is like you never really know how long you're gonna have off. So whenever I do have time off, I'm resting. I'm resting, or I'll double check that I don't have to go anywhere, or like I'll double check to make sure that I'm not booked on anything before I head for vacation. But it's kind of a rule. You book a trip, you book a roll. That's usually how it happens. So
book,
I'm serious. Like I
book a
remember
trip,
I
a
had
book.
you book a trip, you book a roll. You do it's for a lot of women, it's like you dye your hair, you book a roll, and you have to dye it back usually. Like if you
Oh.
want to go like a color red or something that's a not a natural looking color or whatnot, then you dye your hair and then you'll book a roll and then have to dye it back. Like I went kind of blonde for maybe a week and a half, and then I booked a roll and had to go back to brown. And then yeah, I booked a Vegas trip and then had to miss a day of Vegas. I missed Magic Mike because I booked a roll. Yeah, it's kind of a thing. You book a trip, you book a roll. When I was in LA this one time, I booked a roll where I had to come back and shoot for a day and then go back. You just never really know, and you just kind of have to be okay with it, which is once you get used to that, it kind of leaks off into the rest of your life, which is great. Like you learn how to be laid back and just accept things as they are instead of stressing about having to control everything. I don't mind
Definitely.
it. I don't mind
Now,
it now.
how long it took you to get to this point?
Oh my God. Like the first I think was 3 years of acting. I was still serving and singing, and getting everything scheduled was so hard because that's why I feel for actors who are doing 9 to 5s and whatnot, or having to get shifts covered or committed to other things, because
Oh
it really
yeah.
stresses everybody else out. Like if I'm booking gigs with my band guys, if I can't make that gig, they're out a singer. So they're out a gig, you know? So it was really tough, more for other people. I was always stressed that I would be letting other people down, which I did for a little bit,
Right.
and they don't get it.
Like
So,
I did have a job at one point where I worked overnight. And so usually call times were like between like 8 to 9 for whatever I
yeah.
auditioned for. So I had a little lax time before I could audition for stuff. The only problem is, yeah, you don't know until last minute you got the role. So I have to like when I pack for work, and my job would start at like 2 in the morning. So I'd have to
Oh my
sleep
God.
and pack in my car as if I've gotten the role. Because one time I didn't, and I live like 40 minutes away from Nashville. So it was like, oh, I ended up not being able to do the role because all my little dress options I had left at home because I thought I didn't get the role, and they didn't email me and let me know until I was already asleep. So
Oh, No.
Yeah, so I now like every time I go for something, I'll wait till like 7 to see if I get an email back because that's usually kind of the medium time I'll hear something, but it doesn't always work out. So at the 7, if I don't hear nothing, we just get the clothing options, put them in the car. If not, and as honestly, I had at one point like 3 go-to outfits. I just left in my car.
That's a good way to do it. That keeps you prepared.
It also keeps me
Um,
prepared for Nashville because the weather here is all over the place.
Yeah, there you
So
go.
just keep whatever. I mean, we just like right now, it probably feels like a nice 60 degrees. We had like a little tornado storm here like 2 days ago.
Oh
So
wow.
anything can it may snow tomorrow. We have no idea. Anything is possible in out here in Tennessee. So and even now, I still have like maybe like a few sweaters, one suit, just keep it in the car just in case. So because of acting up, I'm always ready for something. I don't know what, but I'm always something I'm prepared for.
That's
Now,
good.
now, how much of what you do, like stuff you work on, is in Canada, and how much of it you do is in America?
Oh, I'd say it's mostly American so far. Um, yeah, a lot of American companies shoot here. Have I been on any actual Canadian shows? I think some of the Canadian shows that I've been on have sort of leaked over to the US, so they're technically
So that happens a
US.
lot.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because a lot of the productions that shoot here are American. They get the tax cuts or whatever it is. It's a little cheaper to shoot
So
here, I think, than LA.
it's cheaper to shoot, and that's actually why they starting to shoot stuff here in Tennessee as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they going everywhere but California now.
Yeah, Atlanta too. There's a lot of
Oh,
productions in Atlanta.
I'm fully aware of Atlanta and their
Yeah.
traffic. I mean,
And they're
I
driving.
oh, it's like traffic is bad here in Nashville, but it's like moderately bad. In Atlanta, like if you got to be somewhere at 7, you need to be gone by like 5:45
Oh,
because at
geez.
6 you're standing still.
Oh,
Like
man.
I have a family member who lives out there. She said she has like a 15-minute window from when she gets off to work to when she gets needs to be on the highway because her 40-minute drive could be a 2-hour drive.
Oh my God.
So it's I'm considering the making a move out there, but also Tennessee is kind of a growing film market in and of itself. Like the show actually called Nashville was filmed out here, and that's kind of how I got my start.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been filming other faith-based films. They do a few Hallmark films, but it's kind of growing here, so I'm kind of sticking it out, trying to see how it goes. Because like I've already made a little name for myself out here, not so much. It's kind of hard to kind of get into stuff in Atlanta unless you live out there.
Yeah.
So I'm weighing my options, but from where I'm at to Atlanta is literally like a 3-hour drive. So if I get something, I just make the drive. I don't mind the drive. So it's not like it's
Yeah.
6 hours out. And then they're doing stuff in New Orleans, which is I think it's like 6-7 hours. But I haven't technically am allergic to New Orleans. I went there once and I got sick the entire time.
Oh no.
As soon
Why
as
do you think that is?
I think it was more for seasickness, I think.
Oh, boo.
Yeah, so as soon as I left, I felt great. I was like, yeah. I tell so every time I talk to a doctor and they ask me about allergies, I say New Orleans. You said like most of which you film out in Canada, but they show up in America. Now,
Mm-hmm.
when I first introduced you and I saw your headshot, I was like, I've seen her in something. I may have seen her in a few.
Probably.
Yeah, I definitely seen you in
Probably.
Supergirl and like 2 other things. Now I was looking at your IMDb, like, okay, seen her there. So do you kind of see do you get recognized often or at all?
I find that people are kind of recognize me just the way you have. They're like, I think I've seen you on something. I think I've seen you. And actually in Vancouver, because the club I used to sing at is really popular and it was really big. And a lot of people it's a place to drink. So a lot of people are quite drunk in there and they'll
Oh.
recognize I feel like a lot of people know me from there. They just look at me, they're like, I feel like I know you from somewhere. I'm like, is it the Roxy? Because it's probably that. And they're like, yeah, I've been to the Roxy. I'm like, oh, it's probably that. It's that or like I've shown up on a show they watch or something like that. But yeah, that's how I usually get recognized. I've gotten like some of the people who like Hallmark or like
Yes.
the rom-coms.
Yes.
Usually I've shown up in quite a few of those. So they know me from that too. I
Now-
love Hallmarkies are the most wholesome fans. They're so cute.
Now let me like, what do you like about doing Hallmark films?
I like how they're just so sweet. They're really sweet, you know? Like a
Mm.
lot of people might say they're predictable, but I feel like it's kind of a safety watch. You know you're gonna feel good watching that there's gonna be a cute romance and you get to go, "Aw," in a
Yeah.
couple of those movies, you know? And yeah, every one of those that I've shot have been so much fun.
Now, before you started shooting rom-coms, were you a watcher of them?
No, actually, I didn't know. I didn't have a TV for a long time, so I didn't really know about the Hallmark Network until I started acting. And I was like, "Oh, what is this?" Like this is and then once I started telling people I was auditioning for them or gonna be in them, I didn't realize that I knew so many Hallmark fans. We never really talked about it until I started being it. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I love those movies." I'm like, "Really?" So yeah, I didn't really know about the networks that are Lifetime. Like I think I remember maybe watching some when I was a kid when my parents had TV,
So
but
yeah, for me it was like the Lifetime movies, and it would be like what my mother watched. And for guys, we would say, "Oh, if your lady or your parents watching a Lifetime movie, it's time for you to leave the room.
yeah,
'Cause she's gonna be mad at you about something.
she's gonna
Whoever's
be
in this film,
mad.
yeah." So my mother's watching a Lifetime movie. Yeah, it's time for me to go outside and find something else to do.
Yeah, because the guys are always up to no good. The
Yeah.
the one I led a Hallmark movie where literally everything that could happen to my character happened. I'm serious. My best friend cut the brakes on my car because she was obsessed with my family and wanted my family. And so I was in a coma and she was sleeping with my husband. They were having an affair while I was in a coma. And then I had to rehabilitate from the coma and learn how to walk again. And then when I learned how to walk again, she was right in there with my family. And then she tried to kill me and then like lit my house on fire.
Wait, this was a Hallmark movie?
This is a Lifetime movie.
Okay. This makes more sense. I was like, "Ooh, Lord."
I know, Lifetime movie, everything
Oh,
happens.
yeah. I was like,
And then
this must
and
be
then she
Hallmark
tried
Plus. I didn't know.
Yeah, no, and then she tried to kill my mom, and then my mom was in the hospital, and then she shot my husband, and then I find out that she's seeing my husband, and then she drugged me, and then we fought on the beach. She kidnapped my kid. It was crazy. The tweets, you know how sometimes there'll be live tweets when
Yeah.
there's a Hallmark or a Lifetime
Yes.
airing. The live tweets for that Hallmark was, "Damn, this hospital better be giving this family a family discount. Everybody's in there." I was in the hospital. My mom's in the hospital. Oh, it's so funny.
So when you read that script,
Yeah.
like, so when you first read, were you thinking, "Oh, this is exciting," or is this based on a true story? What is going on here? Like,
Truth is stranger than fiction. I wouldn't be surprised if it was based on a true story, but I don't think it was. But that was actually, you know how I was saying that I got a movie 2 days before we were shooting? That was the
Yes.
one that I got 2 days. So I didn't really have time to process it. I had to just start memorizing
so
immediately.
you're just on set, like, so what's going to happen to me now?
No, luckily I took the time to read it over and over and over again. So it was great.
Oh, out of everything you had to go to for 2 days, that one?
That's the one I know. But
Oh,
it gave me a lot of confidence because we pulled it off. So it was good. It was fun.
after pulling off something like that, which, my God, it almost like kind of, you said it kind of gave you a bit of confidence. So you almost felt like you could do almost any kind of role now.
I would like to think so. Yeah, sure. I would
Hey.
like to think so. But that was challenging, but super fun. And I knew most of the crew. We had worked together, and I worked with that director numerous times too. So it was kind of like hanging out with family until I had to go scream and cry and fight someone on the beach. But it was it was super fun. It was really fun.
Now, how often do you get to like work on set with like people you've had a rapport with?
I feel Vancouver is quite small, so if you're in the industry long enough, I'm coming up on, this is my 10th year actually of acting.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I feel everyone's kind of on rotation. You eventually start working with everybody. I work with them. I usually know somebody, like a camera op or the makeup artist or one of the grips or one of the ADs or the assistant AD or someone or wardrobe. Like I usually end up working with someone I know. Yeah.
Now, you're Filipino. So
Mhm.
when I started kind of looking up, I was thinking like, what kind of Filipino films that she could have watched growing up, or films that she would watch now, like a good film that would be a good representation of being a Filipino. I couldn't think of anything. So
Yeah, there's not much out there, to be honest. There's a couple things, but there's not much out there, unfortunately. And yeah, I've one of the main reasons I want to keep acting and I never quit was because I feel like growing up, being a person of color, like a dark-skinned Asian, we never really saw ourselves on TV. Do you remember Wayne's World? Tia Carrere? I remember seeing her on TV for the first time. I was like, oh my gosh, she's like us, she's like me. And that was maybe growing up the one Asian representation that like I could relate to, because she wasn't, they weren't playing her off as specifically Chinese or Japanese. She was just
a person.
she was just a person that was also a love interest, a serious love interest too,
Now,
Besides,
how important for you to see her?
well, I think it's so important for kids to see themselves on TV as something other than a stereotypical whatever it is related to their race, it was so important because it helps your imagination as a child to be like, oh, I could do that. I could be a hero too. I could be kind to people like that. I could, if it was Tia Carrere, I'm like, whoa, she plays the bass. She plays the bass and she's not being forced by her parents to play violin or like, or be a nurse or whatever. She's playing the bass and she's singing and that's just from watching a show. And then when you think about like where she is, it's like, oh, she auditioned for that. They hired her. I feel representation is so important for kids and teenagers and just like people in general. So it just helps your imagination go to places where it wouldn't go about yourself and where you can see yourself. Because unfortunately, like if kids don't see themselves as like superheroes, like
Yeah.
sometimes maybe you don't think like you could be kind of a hero in your own life if you're not influenced, but like all these white people are. How come all the blonde people get to be the heroes and the love interests? Like romance should be for everybody. How come heroism can only be for those people or the specific martial arts people? Like
Yeah.
if you're Japanese, you could be a superhero because you know kung fu or whatnot. It's like, well, what about Cambodians? What about the Lao? What about everybody else? I feel it is so important. You have to, especially growing up, kids need to see themselves as lead roles because, yeah, sure, some lead roles are a little crazy or whatnot, but the whole storyline of how a main character is struggling, dips down, goes to rock bottom, and comes back up and makes amends with people or overcomes obstacles. That is so important for people, kids, and just people in general to see themselves doing. It influences people. I never thought I could be a princess because all the princesses were white when I was growing up.
Yeah.
It wasn't fair. So that's one of the main reasons why I like, even when you're struggling acting, like you have to keep going, especially for me, because I don't see Filipinos on TV often enough. And there's some like, half Asian or half colored people have their own struggles as being
Yeah.
half Asian or half Filipino, but a lot of people on TV that are supposed to be repping us are kind of white passing,
Yeah.
And I feel like there isn't enough of us full Filipino people on TV to like show out. You know what I mean?
Now, I always thought a good way of doing that is a show that's almost like a family-based show.
Mhm.
Almost like an example I can think of, like a Family Matters, because everyone can kind of gravitate towards a family.
Yeah.
And then within the family, you can put different people in different personalities that will go through different, I'll use Filipinos for this example, different aspects of what a Filipino male may go through in growing
Mm-hmm.
up as a child, or a Filipino young lady growing up, or what do Filipino parents go through?
Yeah.
That's they're immigrants and they're in America. What do they go through in their everyday life? And usually kind of putting the basis of the family and building the show off that is a great way for far as with film or television to humanize them and go
Mm-hmm.
and see other people go, oh, you go through that too? Oh, I do that as well. Oh, y'all do that? Oh, y'all cook that? Oh, that's great. I may actually try that.
Yeah, well, there was the first lead I got was a TV movie, and it's not on Hallmark. Where even is that? Tubi, I think it is. But I remember auditioning and thinking like there was no way that they were gonna cast me because they had to cast family around me, and in Vancouver especially. I'm not sure about LA or other areas, but there aren't any older Filipino actors here, and the problem is like why would any of them think they could be successful trying to be an actor when there's none of us on TV, so no one's
Yeah.
training and no one's getting good, no one's going to class. So it's hard to find family to cast around me, like a mom or a dad. But then I booked it, and the producers were so sweet. They called me and they said, like, what are we going to do? Are we going to say you're adopted? Because the father and mother had quite a few lines. Like they had significant roles in the movie, and you can't just get a new actor. You can't just pull a Filipino mom off the
Yeah.
street and be like, hey, can you act? Because it was quite a bit of dialogue. And you know how we were talking about if you've never acted before, you come on a set and you have
And that's a huge
big,
set. Yeah.
yeah. So what we did was we agreed to, I was just like, just put a family together, and we won't acknowledge that I'm Filipino or anybody's anything. And we'll just say we're a family. We're an American family. And so my sister was half Japanese, half Italian. My dad was Spanish, and my mom was Japanese. And it worked. Like we were just a family, and that's what sometimes you just have to do. It shouldn't be important like what nationality we are, what culture we come from. We're just if it's in a movie, it's a movie. It's make believe,
Yeah.
but like we all kind of look alike. Not even look alike, but like, hey, we're a family.
Look like you could be a family.
Yeah. So I think that's progressive in its own way.
And I
I
was going
thought that was
because
great.
you brought up too, because I was going to ask you, like, with all these different streaming services, like Netflix, Tubi, HBO, do you see a bit of change in that they're more opening to it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. It's changing slowly. It is.
It's unfortunately always slow.
It's always slow, but it is, I hope I see it in my lifetime where you can turn on a network and the variety will be there, that there'll be all kinds of people in like the trailers and whatnot. It's getting there, but I hope it happens in my lifetime, that it doesn't really matter. But
Have
we
you
still
thought
got to work
about
up to it.
have you thought about writing something yourself that would kind of talk
I
about that?
have. I'm not that great of a writer though, so I write with people for sure. But yeah, it's definitely been on my mind to write some projects in. But then there's like the other aspect of it too, where people of color who don't think who've never thought they had a chance in acting, like they got to train, you got to get good, you got to go to class, because we could write like amazing stories for us, and if you're not a great actor, we can't use you. So I know there's a lot of good talent out there, but like if anyone's listening that is a person of color that wants to get into acting, like just make sure you get really good, keep training. But if I wrote a story for Filipinos and tried to shoot it in Vancouver, it would be interesting casting. It would depend on the age. There's a good a younger generation of us coming up for sure, but
Now,
my
the
age
fact
or
that
older.
you brought up that there's not a lot of older people who seen themselves, so they never even thought about acting. So when you got into acting, how did your family take it?
I kind of broke them in with the singing, because of course they wanted me to like, they would rather me have been a doctor or whatever when I
Oh,
first
of course.
started.
Yeah.
But my parents knew, they could tell I wasn't a studious student. I was I was off like socializing. It was just not important to me. School was
You were
not
just
important to
there.
me.
Oh yeah.
I was barely there. I was skipping all the time. So my parents were just like hoping I focused on something, and I did so many years of serving and I was making decent money serving and as you do. But once I started singing, they just saw how passionate I was about it and were actually quite surprised. I was kind of surprised that they were so supportive, but they did support me. They did. They're like, "Oh yeah, great." But as long as I had another job, and then when I started acting, like they were supportive, but I didn't think that they would be um as supportive as they were. I mean, I know I know the talks of it, like, my mom's friends would always be like, "Donna, why is she's acting now because she's young? What happens when she's older?" Like, but it is what it is. You get the support in your
Yeah.
face anyway.
In your face. Okay.
Yeah.
So when they see, because I mean, there's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to be an actress now. Then they're like, oh wait, I'm seeing my child on very popular TV shows. So like, what has been the response when they've seen you on these movies and TV shows?
Oh yeah, they're so proud. They're so proud now. For sure. They're very proud.
So you get any new cousins?
New cousins, not yet.
Because usually when you're
Not
on
yet.
TV, hey cousin, I
Hey,
knew I saw
cousin.
you somewhere. Hey cousin.
Not yet. I have a lot of cousins to begin with, so I'm good.
So
Yeah, no new ones.
I would tell the family now, know when you have another family reunion. So look, I ain't gonna have no more cousins. So when nobody else coming up talking about they my cousin. Oh, I went to high school with your mama. Nah, the ones I know, this is it. This is who it is. Don't nobody
I'll
new
make a
pop up.
note. I'll be like, Kevin told me this. Kevin told me to tell you.
By all means, hey, if you gotta add my name in. They can be
I'm
mad at me.
adding your name. I'm adding your name
It
for
is
sure.
perfectly fine because I've told that to my family too. I want no more cousins. Mm-mm.
Sweet.
Hey, cousin. Nope. No.
Not
No.
my cousin.
Yeah. Now, as we wrap this up, I have this little thing I wanted to do, and I
Okay.
call it Donna's favorites. So I'm just going to
Ooh.
ask you like a little few questions, and you just tell me like what's your favorite version of it. Or
Okay.
so
Sure.
first, it's your favorite genre to act in.
I think right now, just because I only got a taste of it and I want to do more, I think like horror,
What is with
thriller
women?
horror.
What is with women in horror?
I don't know. I like I love the screaming and it's super fun. I really like acting in that stuff. I got to do one so far. I got to die. Oh, I don't want to give it away because it hasn't come out
Yeah.
yet, but I was in one and it was so much fun. I
Every
got pretty
woman
bloody in that one.
actress I know loves doing horror. I
Really?
me I
That and
wouldn't.
comedy. That and comedy.
I
Either one.
love comedy myself.
Yeah.
Horror, I don't like watching horror. I don't want to be in it. Like
I
me,
don't like watching it either, but
like, I
to
don't want
act
to pay
in it
money
is,
for people to scare me.
I feel you. I don't either. I don't like watching them either, to be honest. But I like acting in them.
Now, next, who's your favorite actor?
Favorite? Oh, there's so many. I have
Yeah,
to pick one.
I don't know. You can pick up to 5.
Okay. Well, Meryl Streep, obviously, because she's like the goat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, who was in X-Files? What's her name again? Oh my God. Why can't I think right now? I've just been put on the spot. The one who plays Scully? The one who plays Scully.
I know who you're talking about. I don't remember her name either. X-Files felt too
Gillian
close
Anderson?
of.
Is it Gillian Anderson?
That sounds right. I'm not sure.
She's so good. I've seen her in like I can't remember the last thing I saw her in, but I just remember watching her just like, oh my God.
Yep,
She
Gillian
is
Anderson. You're right.
incredible. Right? It is Gillian Anderson.
Yes.
And my new obsession, Zendaya. Oh my God, she's so good. I love watching her. I love watching her. I like watching Kate Winslet too.
Oh,
And who else? Yeah. Who else do I like watching? I like watching so many. I can't pick a favorite. Those
so
are maybe
you almost
like
to pick. You like to pick some kind of. You kind of pick something out of all these actors that you kind of like.
yeah,
Or-
because I could watch the girl in freaking The Last of Us is incredible. Like I picked favorites as I go. You know what I mean? Do you know
Yeah,
have you been
I
watching The Last of Us?
I just started watching it.
Oh my gosh, she's incredible. She was incredible in Game of Thrones too. There's just so many good actors. They're all so great.
Now, what's your favorite song to sing?
My favorite song to sing. Okay, it depends. Because at the Roxy, they like rock. And
Mhm.
whenever I sing Sweet Child of Mine, like it gets everyone going. So Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses is one of them. I also like singing We Found Love by Rihanna. That's one of my favorites
Oh
to
yeah.
sing. Also, Florence and the Machine. What's it called? The happiness hit her like a train from
I
a
think I've heard that one.
train. Dog Days.
Oh.
Dog Days Are Over. That's a good one to sing. What else is a fun? What else? Oh, obviously Whitney. What am I thinking? Whitney Houston. I want to dance with somebody. That's my
Oh.
top. What am I thinking? That is the top. That is my number one.
So when I look at cover songs, I
Mhm.
tend not to look at people that sing Whitney because it's either it's Whitney and Michael and Mariah. Those are my three. I just don't look because it's either
Oh,
when I go through that YouTube and look at them, it's either really good or oh my God, why did you post this?
well, see, you asked what I like to sing,
No,
not what
yeah.
I think other people like.
No. I feel you. It just when you said Whitney, my mind went to the last time I saw someone sing Whitney. They were drunk, so you can
Oh
imagine.
yeah, no. As long as
And
they're having fun. If it's karaoke, if they're
oh, they
having
had
fun,
fun,
it's
but I was
okay.
like, I hope y'all don't remember this tomorrow. Now,
Yeah, Whitney's my top for sure.
so now we've talked about on-set food. Now, can you think of your favorite on-set meal?
Favorite on-set meal? I think it was that lobster day for sure. And it was Northwest Fresh Catering. I'm pretty sure it was them. Northwest Fresh Catering. Yeah, it was them. It was that lobster. That lobster was so good. It was lobster and steak. It was
That
sick. It was so good.
sounds like a good choice to me.
Oh yeah.
Now, last one. Favorite character you've played?
Favorite character I played? I think just because it was so much fun. I didn't have much to say, but it was the one in the horror one, and it was Sandy. She was a meth addict, and it was super fun.
Wow.
Yeah. From like rom-com to meth addicts. It was yeah, I think just because it was probably the most different one I've played so far.
Now, I'm gonna definitely. I was going to ask which role was the least like you, so I'm gonna just go with the meth addict.
Yeah, that's definitely the least like me. Definitely the least like me.
Here you go. So, last question I kind of like to ask actresses. Why do you love what you do?
I think it's also linked to singing. I love performing because how open you have to be, and it's anyone who's creative or just anyone who's passionate about anything that gets to do whatever they're passionate about knows what I'm talking about. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When you're so into whatever you're doing that something moves through you that's bigger than you, that's bigger than everything else while you're performing or doing what you love, and you just feel like you're doing what you're supposed to do, and it feels
Yeah.
so freaking good. And I love being around people who feel the same way, but I love what I do because I get to experience that and do it as a living. Like that's why I love doing what I do. I think that's like the best feeling in the world, to know you're doing something that makes your inner child happy, that makes you happy, that makes other people happy. I think it's the best feeling in the world.
If I had an applause button, I would have hit it right then and there. That was beautifully said. I may just add that in post. That was very well said.
Oh, good. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh,
you know, because
yes.
you feel it. Yeah.
And especially when you've worked a job, like I was working in warehouses and I hated it. So when you come from a job you hate to doing something you love to do, and you're also around people that love doing it as well, it's a different energy. You don't mind going to work anymore. You don't mind showing up early.
It doesn't even feel like work.
It doesn't. And now, there's a bad set that time can go by slow, and something it goes by just like, wait, we've been here 10 hours?
Yeah.
I tend to love those situations where it's like someone has to remind me, yo, we came in here at 5 in the morning. It's 9 p.m. now. When did that happen?
You know, and I love being the positive person to remind everybody, like, we just made something amazing, guys. Like, you know what? We did. It was all worth it. It's always worth it.
Absolutely. Well, Donna, thank you for taking time out to speak to me today. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Aw. Thanks for having me. That was so much fun. You're a hell of a lot of fun.
I try to be.
You don't have to try. It's all good.
So once again, I am Kevin Mumphrey. This is We Will Fix It in Post, and that is a wrap.